Europe's migrant dilemma rises. Tuesday's hotspot is Hungary. Is there a solution in sight? How to boost business in Africa in our business report with Alexis Christoforos. The risky quest for a lighter skin and the fight to stop in Congo DRC. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin our broadcast tonight in Somalia, where members of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab attacked an African Union military base, killing at least 19 AU soldiers in a car bombing and firefight. The death toll was provided by a high-ranking Somali official who says that a similar number of AU soldiers were captured by the Al-Qaeda-linked militants. The Islamist militants say they killed dozens of soldiers in the attack on the base in Jana Ali, about 120 kilometers south of Mogadishu on Tuesday. The African Union mission in Somalia is denying reports that Al-Shabaab has seized control of the base. But witnesses say that AMISOM soldiers fled to escape the attackers and that militants blew up a bridge in the town to prevent AU reinforcements from reaching the base. Well, for more on the security situation in Somalia, I'm joined by Abdi Ainte, Somalia's Minister of Planning and International Cooperation. Mr. Minister, welcome to Africa 54.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, first, this kind of attack, makes people wonder, are we, is the war on Al-Shabaab being won, or are things pretty much the same?
Well, I think one has to have a nuanced view about about Al-Shabaab and about Somalia in general. I don't think one attack or the other can define where we are with our efforts against terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab. These kinds of attacks, asymmetric warfare, will likely continue for some time to come. But if you look at the overall picture, I believe we're winning, against Al-Shabaab. We're certainly denying them more space to operate from within, but they will continue to, they continue to be able to wage attacks like today's one.
Now, we tend to see more brazen attacks, especially on security installations like this. Does it mean there is a lack of accurate, reliable intelligence? I mean, how do they succeed?
Well, certainly, they succeed because they are they're not in one particular geographic location where our African brothers and our Somali National Army can go and attack them. There are very little of these spaces anymore. So that means that they are, have merged into the civilian population and are able to organize themselves from within population centers. That also means that, our security services, as well as our African Union peacekeepers in Somalia, not always have the requisite, the needed resources and the equipment to deal with a threat like this. It's a very complex threat. Somalia is a very large country, as many people know, the size of Texas, and so it's a pretty complicated place to work in. But I think in the overall analysis, we believe that we are actually, winning against them.
Recently, there was a symposium in Nairobi hosted by our VOA Somali service, and some raised concern that the fight against Al-Shabaab may not be won if there's no proper interpretation of Islam. What does that mean?
Well, I think that's a different, an entirely different ballgame where you have, a lot of people continue to interpret Islam as if it means, waging war against, your own Muslim brothers and sisters, still using the name of Islam and jihad. And of course, that's not a very common interpretation even in Somalia. I think, these fringe groups continue to, label other Somalis and other Muslims as non-Muslims. So that's a philosophical kind of battle that we need to continue to have against Al-Shabaab, and that is actually going on. I believe that the vast majority of the Somali people, an overwhelming majority, do not subscribe to this fringe extremist ideology that Al-Shabaab subscribes to.
And finally, in a few words, what is your assessment of really what more needs to be done in order to make sure that Somalia is a safe place to be and to operate from, regardless of where you are in the country?
Well, certainly what we need to do is we need to consolidate both security as well as our political progress. Part of the answer is we cannot kill our way out of this mess. We cannot kill all of the members of Al-Shabaab. So our strategy is multi-pronged approach to the problem regarding security. That is to say that, for example, now we're federalizing the entire country. And, far more people are now able to participate in the political process. That's some answer to the problem. Also, we have an amnesty program where a lot of youth are defecting from Al-Shabaab, and we're providing them with the opportunity to rejoin the society. But also, we need to strengthen our security services and our overall political structure.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ainte.
Thank you.
For your insights. Now, Abdi Ainte is Somalia's Minister of Planning and International Cooperation. Now, over to Europe. There appears to be no end in sight to the European crisis. Hungarian authorities have shut down Budapest's main train station on Tuesday, stranding hundreds of migrants, mostly from conflict-ridden areas of the Middle East, who are trying to reach Austria and Germany. An announcement over the loudspeakers of the Eastern Railway Station declared that no trains would leave or arrive until further notice, and demanded all passengers immediately leave the area. Hundreds of police escorted the migrants out of the station and blocked their re-entry. Under European Union rules, migrants must seek asylum in the first country they enter. That means Hungary is technically prevented from allowing the migrants from traveling on to Austria and Germany. Now, since the weekend, over 4,000 people have arrived on the Greek island of Lesbos. The International Rescue Committee has dispatched a team to the island to provide for refugees in urgent need of help. For more discussion on the situation, Kirk Day, an emergency field director with the IRC, joins us live via phone from Lesbos. Mr. Day, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me.
Now, give us a sense of what you are experiencing in terms of the number of people you have to reach and help.
Yeah, sadly, what we see in front of us is the makings of a perfect storm. For most of the summer, you had a total of 1,000 refugees landing on Greece per day, and two-thirds of those would pass through Lesbos, so plus or minus 650. For the better part of last 2 weeks, we've had 2,000 to 3,000 refugees a day landing on Lesbos alone. And on Saturday, our estimates were that 4,000 refugees arrived, and then the next days, since then, probably a similar high number. What's making the situation all the worse is for the past 2 weeks, refugees have been unable to take ferries off the island because it's the height of tourist season and they've been completely booked by tourists. As a result, we've seen a backlog of refugees mostly concentrated around the island's capital, Mytilene, and the main port. So you have 10 to 15,000 refugees.
Yes. Now, what are their immediate and most urgent needs right now?
Well, first and foremost, I think the refugees are suffering from a lack of being able to access readily available assistance. In the north, there is no transit center. And the bus system that's supposed to be newly created to shuttle refugees to the southern end of the island is, to be honest, shambolic at best. And for the most part, refugees are then forced to walk 70 kilometers in near searing heat.
Okay. Now, what's your plea to the authorities there in order not only to help those people, but to make your work easier?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the refugees' desire and the desire of local authorities and local communities is for the refugees to pass through the island as fast as possible. And so in order to help facilitate that, we're calling for at least 2 ferries to be put on a day for the next 2 weeks to help alleviate the burden, because no one, not local officials or aid agencies, has planned to provide assistance to up to 15,000 refugees stranded in the port.
Mr. Day, thanks a lot for filling us in. Kak Day is the Emergency Field Director with the International Rescue Committee. And our 6 elite Presidential Guard soldiers were killed in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo on Monday when their vehicle came under heavy fire, according to military and local sources. The Republican Guard members who are responsible for protecting the president and strategic posts were headed to collect rations when they were ambushed in their jeep on a main road 40 kilometers north of the North Kivu capital of Goma. A military probe has been launched into the killings. Now, delegations from about 20 countries are in Alaska for an environmental conference focusing on the effects of climate change on the sensitive Arctic region. The U.S. delegation, which includes President Barack Obama, is hosting a series of meetings with policymakers, scientists and non-government organizations to discuss the impact of global warming on the Arctic. VOA's Pam Dawkins has more.
Native Alaskans at the conference said they are on the front lines of climate change.
We are very, very concerned about our Mother Earth, but Alaska is not causing global warming. However, actions of the globe is affecting Alaska.
Conference attendees say climate concerns in the Arctic include rising temperatures, shrinking sea ice, and an increasing number of wildfires because of a drier, hotter landscape. Secretary of State Kerry called climate change a seismic challenge that will get worse if not addressed and will lead to what he called climate refugees.
You think migration is a challenge to Europe today because of extremism? Wait till you see what happens when there's an absence of water, an absence of food, or one tribe fighting against another for mere survival.
But some of the U.S. policies for the region have drawn criticism, such as President Barack Obama's decision to permit the Shell Oil Company to expand drilling off Alaska's coast.
We don't rubber stamp permits. We make it clear that Shell has to meet our high standards in how they conduct their operations.
The president said the bottom line is safety. In a joint statement, ministers at the climate change conference said they are reaffirming their commitment to measures that would slow global warming. They pledged to support efforts to reduce carbon emissions and enhance research in the Arctic. Pam Dawkins, VOA News, the State Department.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, a move to ban a dangerous ingredient in popular skin lightening products in the DRC. Stay with us.
Green Beat for a healthier planet.
An Italian farmer's dream of a self-sustainable farm has come one step closer to reality. Luca Remmert's 450-hectare farm near Turin is a testing ground for a methane-powered tractor that could go into production in about 5 years. By then, Remmert says he's hopeful to convert his farm to the production of biomethane so all of his tractors can be running on the fuel.
It means that this farm could become run at some point with zero hydrocarbons and will be able to say it's completely self-sustainable.
Many experts say it could take several decades to implement such changes across Italy. Remmert realizes that it might make little financial sense for others to convert to biomethane, given market fuel prices, but he remains focused on his goal of a fully self-sustainable farm. I'm Philip Alexio for VOA's Green Beat.
Welcome back. In an effort to boost trade under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, African countries are being encouraged to diversify their exports. U.S. officials say that Africa is not taking full advantage of the tariff-free access. In our business report, Alexis Christophorus asks Rick Helfenbein, chairman of the American Apparel and Footwear Association, why Africans are not fully benefiting from AGOA.
Difficult question to answer, largely because it's truly a win for Africa, but only if they take advantage of it. Unfortunately, it's an underutilized program. It was just renewed 6 weeks ago for another 10 years. It was founded by President Clinton under his administration for 15 years. In 15 years, it went up and it went down. First year was $17 billion, and it hit a peak in 2008. Of $80 billion, and just last year, 2014, it was $23 billion. So clearly went up, went down, underutilized.
Where are some of the biggest opportunities for African nations regarding AGOA? Like if you think about apparel and places like Kenya.
Apparel clearly is the biggest opportunity. It's the one area that's growing, because if you look at AGOA statistically, there's an energy sector and a non-energy sector. Biggest growth has been in the non-energy. And apparel's been the biggest part of that, and you have 4 countries that are critically involved in that: Kenya, Lesotho, Mauritius, and South Africa.
Now, South Africa is in the middle of this battle, if you will, with the U.S. over poultry. South Africa must open its markets to U.S. poultry or lose the benefits associated with AGOA, according to the U.S. Is that fair?
Fair is always difficult question when you're trying to move something through Congress. There are 2 senators, Senator Coons, Senator Isaacson, who are protecting their state's poultry interests. The question is whether AGOA is unilateral or bilateral. Technically, it's unilateral. They're asking for bilateral. They're saying, you know, we're giving everything to you. You have to give something back to us. So they've called for a special review, and that process is still going on. It is not settled yet.
What do some of the African nations need to do to seize the moment, if you will, and get more out of AGOA?
First of all, this is a huge opportunity. The benefits under AGOA surpass most benefits in other trade agreements. We will argue forever about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but AGOA, they already have it. They have all the rules of the road in place. The advantage is huge. People need to pay attention to what's in that bill and what the opportunity is. If so, they will be hugely successful.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rick Helfenbein, for joining us today, Chairman of the Board of the American Apparel and Footwear Association. And I'm Alexis Christoforous, Africa 54, New York.
And it's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu. Lino, you have some new information on cancer, right?
That's right, we do, but this will be for next time on our edition of Health. For today, authorities in Sierra Leone say a woman who died in Cambia district along the border with Guinea has tested positive for Ebola. The new death comes just a week after Sierra Leone officials began a 42-day countdown to declare itself free of Ebola. It will represent a setback for efforts to end the 18-month regional epidemic. More than 28,000 people have been infected with Ebola, and more than 1/3 of them have died. Sierra Leone released what had been its last confirmed Ebola patient from hospital on Monday.
As of now, it is confirmed that indeed we recorded a case of Ebola that is swab positive in Cambia district on the 28th of August. This case involved a 60-plus-year-old woman. We are yet to confirm the age. This woman, fell ill and, of course, died. And then when the swab was taken, the test result showed positive. Communities must remain vigilant if we are to entirely win this fight. And this is a classic example of how things can go wrong if we tend to move away from doing the right things.
Health authorities say further Ebola tests are being carried out in Makeni, the main town in the northern province, and in the capital, Freetown. Now, a movement to ban hydroquinone, a dangerous ingredient in popular skin lightening products, is gaining momentum in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But the determined quest for fairer skin by both women and men means it is difficult for activists to convince consumers of the risks.
They come in different names: lightening, brightening, whitening. However, the underlying effects are similar: changing the skin's pigmentation to a lighter shade. Skin lightening is a common practice among dark-skinned people in many parts of the world, including some countries in Africa. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, skin lightening is common among women and men.
After showering, of course, I use Clear Men, but in my opinion, it should be taken at night because hydroquinone is very dangerous. For example, I have already seen it happen to my aunt who has spots everywhere on her face just because she used hydroquinone.
Various lightening products contain hydroquinone and mercury, both powerful toxins. The dangers associated with the use of some creams include blood cancers, such as leukemia, cancers of the liver, as well as some severe skin conditions. The World Health Organization says 77% of Nigerian women use skin bleaching products, followed by Togo with 59%, South Africa has 35%, and Mali 25%. Perceptions of beauty has been one reason for the practice worldwide.
I marry a fair lady. I like fair girls.
What God has created is beautiful. Trees, different people, black, white, Asian.
The harmful effects of hydroquinone use has prompted governments in various countries to take action. In DRC, to curb the use of bleaching products, skin activists have introduced a campaign raising awareness on the dangers caused by hydroquinone and other harmful ingredients.
Today in Africa, there are not many laws other than in Ivory Coast where skin lightening products have been banned. Here, you can have up to 2% of hydroquinone in a product. But we did some tests before launching this campaign, and it was more than 5% or 6%. It is not 2%. But who is monitoring? Is there someone who is checking to make sure that it's really 2%? No.
These harmful products continue flooding the African markets in what analysts say is a multi-million-dollar industry. Businessman Uzair Rauji says bleaching products remain popular in the DRC despite the campaign. He sells a product called Black is Beautiful.
Why not give Congolese and African consumers a product that they can be proud to buy? We tell Congolese and African people to be proud of their beauty, so we made a product about that.
Activists say governments should do more to regulate the marketing and sale of these products, as well as put more emphasis in raising awareness to the public.
That's our Africa 54 health report for you today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, Lino, thank you very much. Be sure to watch Lino Madu's health updates every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Africans in the U.S. diaspora produce a new film on domestic violence. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines.
Chinese president welcomed Sudan's President Omar Hassan al-Bashir, an accused war criminal, as an old friend. In South Sudan, rebel chief Riek Machar accuses the army of violating a ceasefire that came into effect on Saturday. In the Central African Republic, 163 children have been released by the anti-Balaka militia, partly fulfilling a pledge made as part of a UN broker deal. In South Africa, a growing number of black businessmen are beginning to breed wild animals. Finally, in Swaziland, thousands of young women dance before King Mswati II in the country's most famous traditional festival.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Well, domestic violence is the subject of a new film produced by Africans in the U.S. diaspora. Africa 54's Esther Githui-Ewart is in the studio to tell us more. Esther?
That's right, Vincent. The film is known as Ziza, XYZA, and I sat down with the producer, Remy Momodu, who is the main character and who stars as Ziza, captivating her audience with emotions and ultimately a powerful lesson that domestic violence is a global problem and must stop. Remy says domestic violence is a public health issue, a human rights issue, and one that societies the world over need to eradicate. She explains her role as Ziza in the film.
Ziza she's just another regular woman who is searching for love, affection, happiness, fulfillment. And as a result of that, she thought she will find all of that in Desmond, the man. Unfortunately for her, it was the opposite.
Most people have misconceptions that domestic violence happens to uneducated women or men. Ziza was a medical doctor, but very naive. She was pregnant several times, but lost her babies as a result of the beatings she suffered.
She's book smart, but not street smart. She wanted that, American dream, to be comfortable, to be happy, to go to school and be educated. She got all of that. But when it became time for her to enjoy the fruit of her labor, somebody else was doing it for her, and that was the husband. And she was pregnant multiple times in the movie and lost it. You know, so there was so much in the movie. It's packed with emotions, lots of emotion, pain, you know, sorrow, and yet hope.
Enter Francis, who is married to Angela in the film. He is the orchestrator who tells men in the diaspora that it is okay to be lazy, that they should find an educated woman, live off her paycheck, and abuse her. David Bande, a VOA radio host, portrays Francis, a friend of Ziza's husband, and like Desmond, he too thrives on his wife's sweat. These men don't work and happily refer to their wives as ATMs.
That high five actually was explaining about women being our own personal ATMs. You know, when you go to the ATM, you put in your card and you punch in your numbers, definitely you put in the amount you want, it will come down. So when he was referring to these women as their personal ATMs, that means the women are actually working for them.
Eventually, Angela is fed up with Francis, who takes her paycheck every 2 weeks, yet she does all the house chores. But when he summons her to the bedroom, she reaches her boiling point.
She is cooking for the house, and then he said to her, come to the bedroom and do your wifely duties. And so she feels as if she's a piece of meat. You know, the emotions are lacking. There's no love, there's no affection, there's no connection. And so she just had it.
Contrary to common belief, men are also victims of domestic abuse. The film features a biracial couple in which an African immigrant husband is abused by his American wife, who alleges that he married her just to get legal status to live in the U.S. The film, which has been watched only by a section of the U.S. diaspora, is set to premiere in a few weeks in Africa. The film's producers and actors hope to send a strong message that domestic violence needs to stop.
So what Africa needs is more education. So I believe with Ziza going to Africa, premieres in Africa, Ziza will open the eyes of people, open the eyes of the younger folks to see that if this is not working for you, you have to get up. You have to say something.
Domestic violence exists in many households, and both men and women need to be educated about civility and healthy relationships. And that may ultimately lead to healthier and happier societies. Now, domestic violence is a global vice, and often its victims are ashamed to talk openly about it or even seek help. This film, however, hopes to change that scenario by raising awareness and empowering the victims to seek help before it's too late. Vincent?
Well, indeed. That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. You might have heard this idiom in Taylor Swift's new song. Is Taylor really singing about trees? Let's listen to these friends to find out.
How is your grandmother? I heard she's in the hospital.
Thanks for asking. I visited her this morning, and doctors say she is out of the woods. She's feeling much better and is going to be able to go home soon.
Out of the woods means someone is no longer in danger. Sometimes it is used to describe the fact that a person is no longer in danger of dying. But it can also be used when talking about a person or even a company that has gotten out of a difficult situation. And that's English in a Minute.